Hello! Hey, we're back again. This week what we're going to work on is some 3D work. We're going to work with clay. I'm going to show you a couple of different products that you could purchase if you want to do that, if that's available to you. I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about making your own kind of air dry clay. It's not really a clay, it's pretty much a cookie, but it's going to work like a clay. What you need for whatever we're going to work with, you're going to need a cup of water. You're going to need at least one paper towel. If you decide to use one of the store-bought options, these are the three, I think, best options for what we're doing with work at home. Okay, Crayola makes this air dry clay. Inside of this air dry clay, and this is what I'm going to work with today. This is an air dry. You just set it out when you're done. You can make whatever shapes. I have been using the same tub for 2 years. And then when I'm done with it, I put it back in here. I flatten it out, put it back in. And it's still, I can pull all this stuff off. But if I were to set this out and let the air get to it, like this right now, it's a little hard from being that old. So I can take my fingers and just put a little bit of moisture on it, and already that's starting to act like it's brand new. So that's option one. Okay, flatten that out, put it back in. We'll come back to this later. This is what I'm going to use for the demo. Okay. The next best product is going to be this Polyform brand Model Air dry clay. This one also you can buy it at Walmart. Both of those actually all three of these I got at Walmart. All three of them are under $10. So these all three are optional because I know money's weird right now. Some families aren't going to have any money that they can afford to spend on this. I understand that. Mom and dad got laid off or whatever. I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions one way or the other. It's up to you guys. Do what works for your family. But this would be the second best. With this one, this is like I said, it's an air dry clay. Works the same way as the Crayola. It's better quality, a little more expensive, but it's a better quality. And this stuff you can use to make like more detailed stuff. It's easier to work with as far as your fine detail. The Crayola brand, it's a little rough edged. This is, of the three, this may be the best option for some, because this Plastilina by Sargent Art, they sell it at Walmart as well. This stuff you can use over and over and over again. It does not dry. You leave it out, it doesn't dry. You put it in the oven, it ruins it. So don't do that. But yeah, it's a non-hardening model clay, and you can use it over and over and over again. So you make something this week, then you make something with it, the same pieces next week. There are other products at Walmart that you could buy. You could probably go to, if you're going to Garden City, you can find stuff at Hobby Lobby. But for here in town, locally sourced, you can get all three of these at Walmart. The other option is to make your own. And for those of you that have me next year, we'll be doing this, but most of you in the 3D class will be going on to the high school. But the homemade version, basically it's like a cookie. You're going to use flour, you'll use water, you'll use salt, and a little bit of cooking oil, and you mix those things together, and you have a substance that's very similar to this. You can shape with it. You can put it in whatever shape you want to, and then you can fire it in the oven. You basically put it in your oven at home, and you cook it for the amount of time in the recipe that I'm going to give you. I'll put that in the Google Classroom, and that stuff works too. I use that to make Christmas ornaments. Last year with my elementary school kids, we used it. We made probably 300 ornaments for them to take and put on their Christmas trees at home. And I've done some that I've got here. It lasts for years. It gets to be pretty hard. So, but back to this. What we're looking. Oh, and that is paintable. All these two options that you can air dry, they're paintable once they're dry as well. Usually about a week, and you can paint it. Okay, so with this, what we're going to do today, we are going to do what's called a pinch pot. With pinch pot, what I'm doing here is just dabbing on a little bit of water. Just because, like I said, I've been using this for a while, so my clay is pretty dried out. Yours is going to be right about where mine is now that I've put water on it, as soon as you buy it, if you buy this route. So with pinch pot, what you want to do, figure out how big you want to do it. this is smaller than a baseball. This will give me a good size pinch pot. With a pinch pot, typically you can use it to drink out of. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make mine kind of like a about the size of a guacamole bowl. So if I were going to make guacamole, boom. So what I'll do is I'll start and I'll just mash it all together. Once I've mashed it together, I want to press it and form it. And so what I'm doing here by squeezing these together is knocking all the air out. I want to get all of the air out, and I want to mash all the cracks into just one piece. And so like if I come in and I grab some more, because let's say I don't think it's big enough for my guacamole bowl, then I put that in there, and right now I'm going to turn off this light because that's kind of bugging. Much better. Okay, so as I'm going through, you can see that's kind of ugly. I'm just going to mash that down in there. And as I mash that down in there, put a little bit more water in it. Put a little water in that where I'm going to fold it together. And that will kind of press and seal that together. And I'm going to mash it into a cube. Doesn't have to be a perfect cube because I'm going to roll it once I have it into a cube. So then you can either roll it on the table or roll it in your hands. I prefer to roll it in my hands. I think it gets a better ball. Okay, and then once I'm here, I've got a ball. Still, it's a little bit smaller than a baseball. It's about the size of a racquetball. Kind of heavy. Thud. So with that, I'm going to look for the biggest crack I can find. Right here, I've got a nice size crack here. That's where I'm going to start digging. So I'm going to get my fingers a little bit wet, and mostly my thumbs, and I'm going to push in with my thumbs, and I'm going to start to spread that around. You can see mine is cracking. That's because I'm using old clay. If you are using a newer clay, you will have less cracking. And then I'm just going to dance around the circle. And this isn't going to be big enough for my pinch pot. If I want to use it as a guacamole bowl, I would have to go a lot bigger with it. But as you can see, I'm getting all those giant cracks. To fill those cracks, I'm going to get a little more clay. I'm going to soften it up. And then I'm going to come through, get it a little bit wet. Your fingers get wet and sticky doing this. So then I'll come through, I'm going to get these edges wet. And then I'm going to mash that clay in. And I want to make sure that I'm mashing this until it's one piece. If that doesn't feel like it's enough clay to fill that gap, then I'm going to grab a little more. Just get it a little bit wet. And I'm just going to mash it in there. Smooth it out a little bit as I go. And that's going to look like it's one piece. And I'm going to keep doing this as far around as I feel like I need to. The other option, I can just marry these. Get them wet on both sides. And just kind of pinch it together like that. And as I pinch it together, then I can squeeze it around. But you're going to need the water for this if your clay is kind of old or if it's splitting too bad on you. And so I'll go through with that. I'm going to bring this around. What the water does, it just basically helps to seal it. And so right here, I'm getting it flat on the bottom. You can go round if you want to. That's entirely up to you. Get a little bit of water in there. I'm going to actually put some extra clay in this one because it's getting all boogered up. Squeeze those together as much as possible, and then you can smooth it out once you have all of your pieces put together. Okay, and so I just keep repeating this process as many times as I need to get to what I want. And essentially what I want on here is to fill all of these gaps and make it so that it's one solid smooth rim. And again, I want to make sure that I keep it kind of wet. Your fingers are going to get real wet, real juicy, real messy. Don't worry about that. Because again, the end goal is to get it smooth. And it works better if it's wet. Real clay does too. And so what I'll go through and do is just keep on adding to it where I think it needs it. And then if I want to add texture to it, I can kind of come in some areas, go out, whatever I think works with it. So then what I would do now that I have it set, I've got all those gaps filled, is I just want to smooth it out. So I'm going to take and keep going back and forth to the water. If I create any new breaks, like right there, there's a new break. I'll come back. I'm going to flatten this out and just put it right over that break like a band-aid and mash it down until it is level. And so that's what you do with it. And so right now, let's see if I can get this off the table. Now I'm going to have to clean my table because that's a mess. But you have to do that anyway. So here, it's not that tall, flat bottom, nice little bowl. Like, you know, something I could set this out, let it dry for a couple of days. I can toss my change in it. If I want to make it bigger, then next time I'd use twice as much clay. And then I could use this to make a guacamole bowl if I wanted to. A word of caution. Any of this that you're making is not going to be food safe. So when I say a guacamole bowl, it would only be in looks. It would not work in actual function. This stuff will not be food safe. So anything that we're making with this stuff, any of these three types of clay or the oven-baked clay that I told you about, any of those will not be food safe. They are just for decoration. So now that my hands are all nice and messy, I'm going to go ahead and flatten that out and put it back in there. And I will be able to use that again on the next demo. So next week we'll do something else. But what I want you guys to do is you'll go through, you'll make some sort of a pinch pot with that. And then if you want to play around with it a little bit more beyond that, that's fine. What I'm really looking for is to see what your pinch pot is. This video right now, I'm at almost 15 minutes. It's going to take me, it probably took me about 5 minutes to prep the area, get all the supplies. 15 minutes on this. It's going to take me about another 15 minutes to get everything cleaned up. So we're at about 30 to 40 minutes depending on how much cleanup you have. And so you're going to have an easier week this week than normally. Normally we do about 100 minutes worth of work in a week. We've got our 20 minutes lesson, the assignment that's on there, and then 80 minutes worth of art making. This week you're going to have probably about 45 minutes of art making with a 20-minute forms assignment. So be an easy week for you this week. And then next week will be a little bit longer. Next week we'll do some coil work, which takes a little bit longer. That'll probably take most of the time, but it's easier to do than this. And I think it looks a little bit cooler. So that's all I got for you guys for this week. Thank you for your time. Let's make sure we're hitting those deadlines, get stuff in as quickly as you can, as close to the Friday deadline, so I can have all my grading done on Saturday night. All right, that's all I got for you. Thank you.